are in the middle of a week, well, a few weeks actually, the month of May. It's Artist Website Month in the Facebook community. And this is one part, a very pivotal part, an important part of the whole artist website journey. That you maybe have an artist website, you're thinking of making an artist website, and you want to have it effective. What we're going to be talking about today is all about the traffic, all about getting engagement, all about getting the right visitors, not just any visitor, but the right visitor on your website. And hopefully the session will help you make those little tweaks. Very often it's those little tweaks that make a huge difference so that you can make your art more visible. I see Ditto's in the house. I see Gudrun is here. I see Sissa is here. Wonderful. Great, Sissa, that you could make it. I'm so glad you could join the session after all. And Jan is here from the Netherlands. Thank you for adding your information, Jan. Ditto, wonderful. Next week, Ditto is going to be my guest in a podcast, in the Help I'm Artist podcast. You can look on Spotify or on iTunes. And she just has such an inspiring story of her art journey and her genre, her art forms, and how she lives her life as a working artist. So look out for that. That's coming up soon. I'll be posting in the community. And I see Miles is here. Hi, Miles. In Amsterdam, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, from Vancouver, living in Amsterdam. Wonderful to have you in the session. Please add your URL so we can have a look at each other's art, and feel free to use that commentary so that we can engage with one another. So how to get those visitors on your website, that's what we're going to be looking at. And first, before we get started, also for the people watching the replay, welcome. My name is Sonja Small here. I'm originally from Cape Town, South Africa, but live in the beautiful Netherlands. Well, still for a while. We are planning to immigrate back in a few months, so that's an exciting time for us. But have lived here for many, many years, and I've always been involved in art. I love painting, drawing. I've always been doodling, drawing, everything I could get my hands on. I've always been filling with illustrations, with drawing, with painting. Went to the art academy, studied art here in the Netherlands, learned how to paint and to draw, but how to actually sell my art. Oops, they forgot to teach us that at the art academy. And I was at a total loss and in so much frustration after I graduated, because I thought, okay, great, I'm surrounded by all my art. What do I actually do with it? And that took me on a journey. I went to business, still business courses, marketing courses. Of course, the times have changed since I went to the art academy. Lots is possible. You can self-represent, you can use the online spaces, the offline spaces. And so I've now focused on being an art coach, helping creatives, getting their art out there through my podcast, through my courses, through the coaching sessions. So if you want to find out more about that, then please head over to my website and have a look, because I'm passionate to see artists succeed. Artists are so important. You're the voice, you're the conscience, you're the beauty. You are so important in this time where we need to have your voice. We need to have what you are standing for, your art out there. So that is what I'm passionate about, and that it doesn't just happen intentionally, like, okay, it just happens to get noticed. You can take intentional steps. It's awesome strategy and tactic. This is my website, sonjasmallhere.com, and you'll find resources, you'll find links on there. It really is a hub where you can go to get some inspiration. You can follow along by joining my mailing list so I can send you relevant information. And I have a course that goes live every year. It's a 12-week course. We're in the final week this week. We have graduation at the end of the week. And the artists have been going through a whole framework. It's called the Working Artist Framework, of how you can turn your creativity into a revenue stream, into a business. Because you're not only an artist, you're also a business person. And that's sometimes a challenge to get your head around, because you need a revenue stream. Otherwise, you can't pay those paints and the rent, and you need to have those structures. And that's what I love to teach, because it's totally doable. It's nothing to do with luck or chance, or even the level of your talent, or if you went to the right art school. There's so much more that you can do to partner with your art and to get it out there. So that's me in a nutshell. Today, very specifically, we're going to be talking about your artist website, because there's never been a more important time. This time is to have that effective online presence. Whether you started out with your social channels and then venturing in and developing your artist website, you need to have your artist website represent you in the best possible way. Please just let me know in the comments if you have an artist website. So give me a yes if you have. Doesn't matter if it's just a landing page or not. And if you don't have an artist website, just give me a no. Totally not a problem. Maybe you're using social media channels to communicate about your art, but just give me a yes if you have an artist website and a no if you don't. Maybe you're still in process of setting one up. Hi, Claudia. Good to have you here in the session. Let me just see where you're from. Germany, our neighbors. See, Ditto and Sissa they have artist websites. Give me a yes if you do and no if you don't. I know some of you are still busy setting up your artist websites, really are in the planning phases or just on your social media. It's a strategy. Claudia says yes. Vitska, hi Vitska. Good to have you in the session. Says yes. And Jan is using his website and Insta and Facebook. Good, it says yes. Also for the people watching the replay, use that comments area if you are in the Facebook community, because I do go back and look at the comments. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask them. I will, at the end of the session, be opening up the floor for some questions, and so we can have the conversation with one another. But yes, so that website, getting it effective, so you can build that engagement. Because one thing, having your artist website, you need to have engagement. And it's a total given, and I thought I'd just mention it. The best tactic to have people come onto your website is to make good art. Really hone your skills, become the best that you can possibly be, take courses, learn, have that learning mindset so that you are growing and developing as an artisan, as a craftsperson, as an artist, because good art attracts people. If you're making attractive work, people will start following you. It's worth their 5 minutes, it's worth their attention, and you'll be inspiring to people. So that's a given. So you can make under art that's not shareable, and you're wondering why is no one coming onto my website. You can have all the tactics in the world, but if you aren't making the art at a level that it's share worthy, of course that's a given. We all are working artists in this environment, or you're aspiring to be. So the best tactic is to just become a good artist and develop, and you can learn it. There's so many things you can learn, and there are possibilities out there. And then as an artist, you can have all the skill and have all the technique, but have something to say. People will follow you if you have a point of vision. If you have something to say, they will follow you because you're inspiring. They will follow you because they'll be attracted to you because you are making them think about things, look at the world in a different place, or that you are giving them that beauty, whatever kind of art you're making. So develop a point of vision, develop your art voice. What is it that you want to say? And then you can start communicating that through different channels. So that is just a given up front. That's where it starts. So you have art that's share worthy, you have something to say, you've made a body of work, you have representation with images and words, and now you want to put that on a screen, on a website. You want to put it out there in the online world. You spend time and money, maybe you've making that yourself through there's many platforms now, it's more accessible to do it yourself, or maybe you've asked a graphic designer or a marketing company to do it for you. Whatever trajectory you do, you have your website. That's the starting point. But all the time and energy will be for such a way as if no one is coming onto your website. Your website will be one beautiful island that you will be scrolling through, or maybe friends and family only, and it'll be wonderful for you. But if no one is coming onto your website, what a pity, what a waste of your time, energy, money. And the whole idea is to get people to visit your website. So we need to get those tugboats, it's a nice illustration, to bring people onto your island. How are you going to bring people to your space, to your content, to your art, to your imagery, whatever art form you're making? You need to get those visitors. So what strategy are you going to be using? And strategy is a word I use a lot with my students because it shows intent. You're doing something on purpose. It's not just, oops, I'm just posting here or I'm doing this and it just happens to work. You have made intentional choices for an intentional goal, and that's a strategy. Distinct steps to get there. So do you have a strategy on how you're going to get people onto your website? Intentional steps. And if you do, what is that? Well, that's why you're tuning in. Maybe you want some inspiration about what's possible. And we're going to be looking at 3 strategies in this session. The first strategy is the in-person strategy. Was challenging last year, of course, due to COVID. Everything was locked down, so this was not the most effective strategy. But still, it's proven that one-on-one contact with people is still the best way to get people to engage and to understand you and to follow you. So grab those opportunities when you have moments when people ask what you do. Have your story prepared so that you can share about your work. And if your website is your marketing strategy, then give them an opportunity to follow you or to find your website. So have that business card. Have that business card with an illustration or with your art on it, because it really represents and it gives people a sneak peek at what your art looks like. Next week, as I say, Dida de Beer is in my podcast. Dida's in the house. And I interviewed her last week and she was sharing how she was sitting in a restaurant and saw an opportunity to exhibit her work in a space. And she had her business cards with her and with illustration, with a photo or a few photos of her work on the business card. And she gave it to the owner of the restaurant. And he was like so blown away at what he saw. He followed up straight away the day after and phoned and said, yes, I'd love for you to exhibit in this space. That would first of all never have happened if she didn't have the boldness to talk to the guy, didn't have something with her that actually made it very visible, like this is me, this is my URL, have a look at my website, and that there was that follow-up that gave her an opportunity to exhibit. So that is something that you should be aware of and use those opportunities. Have representational cards with that URL. So that is the in-person strategy. And then and then the second, I'll talk a little bit more about the in-person now. Second strategy is the email marketing. We've spoken about that more in this community of getting an active and engaged email list. I'll talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to focus on and end the session with the online. How can you use your web? How do you bring people onto your website using the online space? Let's just hone in a little bit about the in-person. The whole clue, and I think that really is the trend going forward, is that we're using the offline space to bring people into an online setting. So you are aware that you are in person, you're going either at a gallery or wherever you are in the in-person spaces, whether you are at a restaurant like Dida was, or wherever you see opportunities, that you take people from that in-person into your online space. And it should be representing both. It should reflect your art, it should reflect your personality as if they're meeting you in person. Have that business card, and when you have an opening, get that guest book so that you can see who has been there. Can you follow up? Of course, you can't spam them. You need the GDPR consent to send them emails, but you can ask them, look, I have a website. Please go and have a look at my website. And then if you have that opt-in function on your website, people can join. There already is engagement. And then share that URL. If that's your strategy, make it easy for people to find, and find creative ways that people maybe have a QR code next to one of your paintings that takes people to your website where you show an interesting behind the scenes video of the process of that painting. You've taken them in person to an online experience, and that's only going to get more and more as technology develops. So that's a good strategy to use. That's a given. Email, as I said, we've spoken about that more in this community. That's what you can control. That's a portal that you can use, sending someone an email to their inbox. You control that. The social spaces are busy, they are overpopulated, they're noisy. Sending someone an email is more direct. You have direct contact, especially if you have a call to action in your email, which means you are asking them, please reply, or what do you think of, or you ask a question, or you have a quiz, or you have some kind of engagement with that email, that it is actually you asking for conversation, and that builds relationship, which is a great way to share and say, look, I've got something new on my website, please go and have a look. My new collection is out there. You write that in your email, go, and you have a button in your email, go to my website and have a look. So it's intentional that you're using an email with a call to action that takes them to your website, which will populate and of course bring the traffic. So make sure you send regular updates, so not once a year that people forget and then they don't, they're not thinking of you the rest of the year. Find a strategy to use emails, whether that's once a month, every first Monday of the month. Make it regular and make it within 5 minutes so that you have something to say. Make it inspirational, not just a whole bunch of facts. Give people some insight into the process of who you are, story behind the products, new inspiration. Find ways to get that communication going. So that's the email. We will, of course, talk more about this. There's lots to be said about emails in future sessions. Let's focus on the online space, because that's where a lot of us are now. We are forced into the online space, and you can use the social channels, organic methods to get that traffic, and your website. That's where you want people to go. So communicate your URL on all your channels. If this is something that you want to do, you want to bring people onto your website, that's your strategy. You're not using the social media strategy. That is a strategy. I know artists that just use Instagram to sell, to communicate, to give processes, the whole shabam. They use Instagram. Totally fine if that's intentional. But you are here because you want to get people onto your website. Communicate it richly, populate all your communication channels with your URL. And make it interesting, so not just a hyperlink in blue, but make a nice button so that's attractive, or put hyperlinks so that's where people can press on a photo, so that everything that you have in your email or on your social, make sure you're mentioning your URL, bringing them to your website, and then keep that website up to date. Relevant information, because that will tell the Google. We'll talk a little bit about the Google searching and organic traffic further along in the session. But an updated website, something that's updated at least once a week, once a month minimum, tells that it's an active website, that they should rank you higher in the Google search. And then set up a customer journey. We will talk more about this in other sessions, because it's important that you have clear where you want your customers to go, your clients, your potential buyers. So they land through some search, they end up on your Instagram. What kind of action do you want them to take next? What steps, what little clues are you going to give them, those little breadcrumbs that they can follow to end up where you want them to go? That's your customer journey, so that is clear. And then you communicate that all the relevant information on your website, on your social channels, and then elevating your art through the right photography, because you can have beautiful art and bad photos, and then people will also not stay on your website very long. So using all your branding, the opportunities to elevate your art through the right photography, using video, builds engagement, and the layout. We did talk about that last week, so if you missed last week's session, all about how you can build that effective artist website with the whole flow chart, have a look at the replay. The website has the front end, and we spoke a little bit now about the front end, but there's a whole back end that sort of gives us gray hairs, and it's this big mystery of how this website algorithms traffic actually works. But it's just good for you to be aware that there's a front end of your website, everything that you're seeing, and then the back end of the website, that everything that is you're not seeing but plays a crucial role in how you are being found or not found. And let's just start with that organic traffic. Organic traffic is that people that are putting in words in the search engine finding something specific, like how to bake a cake. They are filling in organic words, and they will find you depending on how you are rated or ranked in the Google search engine. So that's organic traffic. What steps can you take to get visitors on your website as they visit the web? So they are online, maybe they're just scrolling, they're just searching for things. What can you do to position yourself so that you can be more easily found? Because there's more that meets the eye. You have to start thinking like a search engine. Emphasis on engine. So it's a mechanical process. When your visitor finds you on the website, for them to find your content, to find your art, the search engine needs to find you first. That's, that's just a given, that the search engine must be able to find you and understand you so that they can rank you before a visitor will find you. If they are not, the search engine is not finding you, a visitor won't find you. But how does that work? How does this engine work, and how should your brain be thinking? In short, it's called search engine optimization. SEO, maybe you heard that word, maybe you're thinking, oh, please, I don't want to be involved in search engine SEO stuff. That's all too technical. Hopefully today's session will just burst that bubble a little bit and just give you confidence that there are things that you can do about it to optimize your visibility. The Google, I always call it the Google, as if it's a person, is the largest search engine. So I'm using Google in this instance because it is the large search engine by far. Will eventually find your website. So it's a slow process, especially if you're just starting out, you're just building your website, you've just made it live. It's going to take a while for the Google to find your website. Then there's Google bots. So these are robots that are scrolling the data, and this is all coding, looking for information. And that's these bots, robots, they are indexing and gathering information. And this takes time. But you can help Google along. You have to understand what's involved to make yourself more visible. The Google looks for three things: for words, for patterns, and for traffic. And we're going to break those three aspects down, and we're going to look at them in a little bit. I just want to say up front, I'm not the whole internet SEO expert. I'm not a technical person. The algorithm is a mystery to most, even if you're technical, it's a mystery. So, there's many theories of how this algorithm works. I think if you would understand the algorithm and have control over the algorithm, you'd be like a multi-millionaire because it's such a mystery. I think also, how does the algorithm of Facebook, who's seeing your Facebook post, who's seeing your Instagram post, who's seeing your content? It is a big mystery. So I just want to say that up front, that it is a whole specialism in itself, but I'm just going to share what I know and some practical things that you can do, because I've seen it's influenced my SEO and all the other artists that have applied this to their website. So hang in there. Words, patterns, and traffic. The Google has a search engine where you search in search words. So that's where you end up, or if you're wanting to find something online, that's the search bar. What do people need to type in there to find you? What do you need to fill in there to find you? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever searched for yourself online? What words will actually bring you to your content? So it's good to do some Google searching. Use that engine and see how you're being ranked. On what page is your content popping up, and what words you need to use. And there's all different variations that you could use to be more effective. For example, I can just have the word artist, and there are quite a few artists in the world, and that's quite broad. You need to get more specific in how you're writing words on your website. So you could use the word fine artist, or figurative fine artist, or figurative fine artist that's an oil painter, or a Stockholm-based figurative artist that's an oil painter. Which of these do you think is going to be more found, easier found in the organic search? I think you know the answer to that. I did a Google search for the word artist, and there were close to 3 billion hits. I think that you will be a very small fish in a very large pond. So instead of on your website just calling yourself an artist, you want to differentiate yourself and make it more specific. Here's some more. If you type in the word fine artist, there's 650 million results. Figurative artist, so that's a little bit more defined, is 50 million. And if you add the word contemporary figurative artist, that halves the amounts of people, the search options, the results, to 19.5 million. So that's still quite broad. But if you typed in Stockholm-based figurative oil painter, it drops dramatically to 1 million options. So that you can just see the difference between the billion and the million. You still think, oh, million is still huge, but it does dramatically narrow the options. And you want to make that as narrow as possible, and that robot will find your content based on the words that you are putting on your website, how you are describing yourself. So it's time to get specific in your taglines, in your headings, in the words that you're using. Find a way to describe what you're doing and add specifics that make you different from the other figurative contemporary fine artists using oil paint. You can add geographical areas, you can add a certain skill that you have, you can get as specific as possible so that your visitor, but also the Google search understands the power of using words on your website. That influences the search, and they're called keywords. It describes the essence of what you do. What keywords do you use on your website? Are you intentionally using those keywords? What do visitors need to type in when they are searching online? And you can go, the information is right there. Do Google searches on artists that you admire, and then, or the type of artist that you admire and who pops up, and have a look at their websites. Why do you think they're there? Maybe they've been there for a long time. Maybe they have had, specific recognition, so people have been following, they get a lot of traffic. And have a look at their wording. What words are they using so that they are right there within the first 5 pages? That's invariably where you want to end up, because after 5, people aren't pressing next again. Getting your headings right. Usually if you're making your website yourself, you've seen the options. This is a WordPress a spread where you have 6 options as far as headings. You have heading 1, 2, and then right through to 6. The search engines invariably are scanning for H1s. That's heading 1. So that's the main heading, either at a blog post or your about page or on your home page. That is what the robots are looking. That's sort of the whole, sort of sums up what you're doing. So have a look at your website and see what you're putting at the H1s and H2s. After H3 to 6, they're not ranking. So those H1, the heading 1 and the heading 2 is very important. And you'll probably have different, not everyone is using WordPress, maybe you're using Wix or you're using different platforms. Have a look and see it. It's where the headings are. Usually they're all the same. You have those 6 options. So on your homepage, your blog, about, shop, resume, wherever you're having headings, add those keywords. And be wise about it. You can't just copy paste it on every page, because the Google bots are quite clever. They also will look for patterns, and if they just see copy paste of headings, they will also not. They will ignore you. So you have to be intentional of where you're putting what words. It's quite a puzzle, but once you get the hang of it, you're going to see in your statistics that you're going to get more traffic, and you're going to get more, you're going to be ranked higher. And just good to know that the first 65 characters in heading 1, they're registered. That's what the bots are reading. So make those count. So don't add it at the end of the sentence, but start with your keywords. Keyword, remember, is the word that people will type in to find you. And you don't want to put artist, not just fine artist, not just figurative artist, but add something else so that it differentiates you. So those are the keywords. And then the H2 is subtitles. The bots, the robots are also looking and scanning for subtitles. So that make those count too. So you can add maybe in a darker font, the heading, and then in a lighter color, typography, a subtitle. And there you can also add your keywords. So use different titles, because Google does detect repeats. Make sentences. Don't stuff everything with keywords. It's got, if you're writing a blog and you're just putting contemporary fine art based in Stockholm in every third sentence, that's not good SEO. The Google will detect that. So use full sentences, but populate your blog post or your about page, your resume with keywords so that they can be detected. And if you have, for example, a blog, use 1,000 words or more, because short blocks of text are less, of course, have less to rank. So words, if you have content more than 1,000 words, it gets ranked a little bit higher. Use short sentences. That's a tip. Give your images names. Add keywords. And I see this very often. The Google bot can't scan images, not yet. They don't have the face recognition or the recognition what's actually happening in an image. So it's good discipline for you to start by making a photo archive of content, of images that you want to maybe put on your website, and give them keyword names. So add all your keywords of how you want to be found, add them to the title, and descriptive words of what's actually happening in the image, because that'll also give you that extra visibility as far as words. So don't forget that, not JPEG 320, give it an actual name. Don't copy and paste, we already talked about that. Keep it relevant, and then use those keywords in the titles of images. You can also have descriptions of your words, of your images on your shop, for example. You can, in your shop descriptions, also add keywords, or a title of an image of a painting. You can add keywords. Remember, Google is looking for words, patterns, and traffic. We looked at words. Go and have a look at your website after the session. Go and look at other websites after the session and just see how are they using their words. And then let's briefly look at patterns, because this is a machine that's trying to link the dots, trying to understand what you're doing. And you have to give the machine enough clues so that it's a coherent story, so they can rank you in the right place. It's like putting that pieces of the puzzle together so you have a coherent picture. Pages must have similar content. So very often I get asked, yes, I do fine art, but I'm also a dog lover, and I just want to put everything in one website, because then people can find me. I can use all that traffic, if they want to know my art or they want to know about my dog training, it's all in one place. But that is for the SEO not very clever, because you'll totally confuse the robots. They'll be like, is it a dog training or is it an artist? So keep relevant content together. And that's also, you have to look, if you're a teacher and you may be teaching something else, that's not quite relevant to your art form and it contains all kinds of other keywords, then maybe consider doing 2 websites, but make sure that there is similar content on all the pages so that the robot can understand and make that puzzle. And then getting really clear. I think the more clear you are of who you are as an artist, what kind of style you're making, what words you're using to describe yourself on your homepage, about me page, and in your resumes, for example, the clearer structure there'll be and the easier it'll be. There needs to be that logical flow in information. We spoke about it in the last previous session of making that flow chart, having the information go from your homepage where you're going to take your visitor to. So there's no open ends. You're taking people around your website, which keeps them there longer, but there is a logic to it, because that's how remember, you have to think like a robot to get people to find you. Finally, let's look at traffic. Actually getting traffic and engagement on your website. You want to keep people there as long as possible. That's the whole idea, because the robots will read and say, hey, it's relevant. People are engaging with this content. And they will reward you. Because remember, Google is for free, but they are invested to get people there as quick and as long as possible, because they have their ads, they have their revenue streams that they are invested in. And so they are looking for websites that are relevant, that people want to look at, that people have been on. So make the journey on your website so interesting that people will stay there. And that's with that flow chart, with images, using video, because people stay there longer on your websites. And see, many of you also have websites that takes people to a YouTube channel, which is okay to start up with, but you're taking people away from your website. It's good to embed something in your website where people are staying on your URL. Otherwise, they are leaving and they're going to the busy YouTube space. So that's also just something to consider if you are sending people to other platforms. Try and keep them there as long as possible. Good way for the traffic, people to keep them there as long as possible, is ask for comments or ask questions. People can respond in a comment area. You have to really know if you want to do this, because you probably need an assistant to answer questions, because if you ask a question, people will answer. It's good to have that conversation. But if that's something that you love to do, add that comment area at the bottom of a post so people are interacting. That's the whole idea why they have those comment areas, is for the engagement. So people stay there longer, you're having conversation, and you can find out who's actually on your website. Keep it fresh, keep it relevant, and check your load speeds, because Google will also reward websites that load fast. If you have very heavy content, photos that are very large, or very large images or illustrations, and it takes a long time to load, you will be ranked far lower. So check your load speed. I have an app that you can use so that you can check the load speed of your website. Google your own name. That's is a given. Have a look and see where you're ranked, and make it a challenge. And just keep your statistics once, every month. Just see where you're ranked. If you're filling in your name and you're changing content, have you been ranked higher, so that you can just do it on an Excel sheet, on a piece of paper. Are you going from page 35 to page 28? And what is the engagement there? Placing consistent content. So if you have a blog, that's why blogging is so a good way to communicate. It doesn't have to be, just 1,000 words with an image and with the keywords, that you're populating your website with words that'll help you in the organic search. That's why so many people that have effective websites have some kind of blog content, some kind of word content. And then search for those Google search, the keywords that you are understanding what words work and what words don't, that are specific for your art form. And then have some kind of insight into the analytics. And this is another word that's not very artistic, analytics. But this gives you very good, these are the back end. You can put a pixel onto your website that allows the analytics to tell you who's on your website for how long, what country they're from, what are demographics. It really gives you an insight of who's engaging at what time, how are they coming, is there a certain pattern that you can detect, whether you're going to put new content up there in the weekend or during the weekdays. It's very good to do like a basic Google Analytic course, or even Google offers resources so that you can understand it. There's the base. You can make it as complicated as you want, but there's like the basics so that you can see your curve. You can see, when you're posting on Instagram, do people go more to your website? Whether, if you're putting up new content, who's engaging with that and how long and what pages are they going on. So that's the Google Analytics. I don't know if people are in this session are using Google Analytics. Can you just let me know in the comments if you have some kind of insight, whether you've just installed it and you look at it now and again, or maybe not at all. Just give me a yes if you have something Google Analytic related, or a no if you don't. Then I'm really curious. Just a yes or a no. Love to see. And I see there's some, we'll get to the questions at the end and hope to help you further. Anita says, yes, I'm still in the process of creating my website, but it's a much bigger project than I realized. I'm glad the information is helpful, Anita. Don't stress yourself out too much. It's a process and it's step by step. Get the front end looking good, representing you, and then the back end can follow. Rebecca says, yes. And Sister says, no, I need to install that. Hasn't installed it yet. Dido says she looks at Google Analytics but doesn't know how to follow up. So that is the next step, Dido, and for people that can relate, is that you learn to analyze what you're seeing. So that what steps can you take to, maybe your goal is to bring people to your shop, but you see that people are looking at your About page and then leaving. What is it that you can change on your About page so that you can bring people to that shop? So those are the conclusions that you could make. You look at the graphics and you can just see how long, what's the retention rate of how long people are staying in certain places. Last week we looked at that heat mapping, that you can heat map your website to see how people are moving their mouses and what people are clicking on. Also good analytics to have a look at. But there are basic courses available. I will give some resources at the end where you can have a look just to get a better understanding. And you don't need to be, the technical buff. It's just that you know that it's there. It's important because, if you want that organic search and the traffic, there are things that you can do about it. And Vitska says, yes, she is involved in, or she looks at the analytics, and Claudia no. So it's a little bit of a mix. It's something we can all learn, and the information is there for you to use. And then switch your social media accounts to business accounts, because that also has the analytics that will also give you insights to how people are interacting. And then, of course, you want to take people to your artist website. Here are the URLs that I was talking about. The webpage test.org. That is to test your load speed. There are more websites like this, but just run your website through and you can just see what images are maybe making your website slow down in the load speed. And then we have the Google, but did you know there's actually a human search engine, that there are all people all over the world that are gathering information and ranking information on the DMOZ website. Have a look at that human search engine. They say if you get ranked on the DMOZ platform that you have been doing a good job. If the humans can find you, then well done. And it's also good to have a look at Moz.com. They're very involved in SEO, and there are lots of resources out there just to get more if there's specific things you want to know about. Have a look at these websites. I have a checklist for you to download. If you haven't had a look at the artist website checklist, it's a resource that I've made that you can find on my website, soniasmallier.com/checklist. And you can go through your website and just tick all the boxes that you have or that you don't have, just to see how you can make your website more effective. So that's my gift to you, hopefully to help you get more effective so that you can start sharing your art more effectively through your social and also through your website. It's a large subject. I know it can be super overwhelming, this whole traffic and the SEO. Don't let it overwhelm you. Take little steps. What you can already do is have a look at your content, look at your website, look at your words, Find what keywords that you'd like to be found on and start populating your website with them, adding titles to your images. And we'll talk about this more in the future because there's really cool things that you can do in your social media as well. By following the right people, by engaging with the right people that you want, people that you want to follow, that you want them to follow you. You start following them, and then building engagement, and then taking them to your website. So there are many ways that the online space allows you to bring traffic. I'm just really curious about questions. If there are questions about this, I just see there are some comments here. Caesar says, I just checked my blog posts. I need to write more words. Yeah, if you can keep it like 1,000 and more, that would be good. And I know that can be challenging, especially if you have a regular blog, but that really makes it more visible. Thanks for that, Caesar. Any other questions as we close the session? Then I'd love for you to share in the comments. Please also just share your URL. Next week we have Artist Website Review. That's the session on May 26th. If you want me to have a look at your website and do a live review in the session, then please send me an email with your URL, and also just tell me the goal of your website, because that also depends of how effective your website is. So I'll be choosing 5 artist websites that I'll review live in the session. It doesn't have to be perfect. Your websites don't have to be perfect. It's more a learning curve for us all by looking at websites. What can you tweak? What are the little changes that you can make to make it more effective? So you're welcome to submit your websites, send me an email, and just tell me briefly the goal of your website, and then I'll consider, and I'll be choosing 5. Jan says, I'm a data analyst by trade, and I'm still trying to figure out Google Analytics. Yeah, it's a challenge. Don't let it overcomplicate. Don't overcomplicate it, because there's so many graphics on there. I just usually look at my engagement, my retention, where people are bouncing. So what are people, leaving very fast? That means I need to add some more information or an extra image or a video to keep them there longer. So yeah, but it is a challenge. Heidi, hey, you're in the house. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Okay, guys, I don't know if there are any more questions. Hopefully this has been insightful, and that you can start taking steps to get that artist website more effective. Send me your URLs if you want me to go through them for the live review, and download the checklist for on my website. You can go through that. And next week we'll be there here again on the Wednesday at 1 p.m. And please add your art in the community, in the Help I'm Artist Facebook community. Please leave your URLs, so also in the Facebook community, so that people can just see your work. We're here all to encourage one another. It really is a community that we can uplift one another, encourage one another, be cheerleaders, learn from one another, inspire one another. So that's what this community is for. I wish you a wonderful day.